Derech Hashem, Way of God, Rebbe Lutzato. We are beginning the 5th chapter of the first section, the final chapter of the first section. So the name of this chapter is Bechelki Habri Umatzavehem, the components of the creation and their situations. In Rabbi Kaplan, it's in his version. The Feldheim is on page 74, and he translates this as the spiritual realm. He says that the divisions of the creation the primary division is going to be physical and spiritual. So the physical, they also can be divided up between the Elyonim and Tachtonim, the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Now they're both physical, and he'll get more into defining these two a little bit later. So, but it does make the distinction. There are the celestial spheres and celestial bodies, and then there's down here. So regarding that, he's talking about the stars and everything in space, basically. And it'll become clear later why he needs to make this distinction, considering they're all physical. But then there's everything that is down here, below, here on Earth. That's going to be the second category of the physical. And when it comes to the spiritual, so like just before we get to spiritual, then just to clarify that it gives not exactly a definition, but something that's helpful in understanding and relating to what the physical is. He says that it is subject to our senses. And that's in contrast to the spiritual, which is a reality that is not subject to our senses. So I kind of like to think about it that the Almighty is not limited in his being able to create any type of reality that he wants. So he creates certain realities that are subject to our senses, either directly or indirectly. They can be measured by physical means and perceived rather, and or measured by physical means. And then there's also realities that he created that are not in any way, shape, or form subject to our physical senses, and in no way can they be measured in physical fashion. So in the category of the spiritual, so then there would be two general categories. There are neshamos and nivdalim. That means that there are neshamos, which are souls, we would translate that, which are spiritual realities, but the nature of the spiritualities are that they are designed in such a way so that they can become bound with the physical, which is their job. They're spiritual realities that are meant to come into the physical. And then there are also spiritual realities that are totally not meant to come into interaction with the physical, in the sense that they become bound up with the physical. So in that category of the nivdalim, I believe that Rabbi Kaplan translates them as transcendent realities. So then there are angels, and then there are transcendent forces, kochos. And he talks about how the malachim, they have different, species, you could say, but they all fall into the category of malachim. And then there are also this kind of like hybrid in-between reality, which one might, because of the fact that they seem to be less physical, and therefore they don't have the same degree of limitations that we physical beings have, then we might make mistake of associating them with being spiritual beings, but they're actually not spiritual. Instead, they're just less physical. A person would make a mistake of calling them ruchnius, spiritual, but they're not. This is the category of shadim. And okay, so when it comes to the Adam, the human being, he's the only one that is a composition of physical and spiritual. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking that because of the fact that animals have some type of spirit or life force, therefore that's an element of spirituality that's incorporated into them. that is a mistake. The way he describes it here is that the life force within animals is not spiritual. And my Rebbe, my teacher, Rav Leichter, he said that what that means is that might be that it's a non-physical reality, but it's the tachlis, the intent of it is towards the physical. The focus of it is physical. Its experience of reality is nothing other than physical, and this is in contrast with a soul. A soul is a being that's associated with the upper worlds, and it's not the case with with any life force that is within any other animal. But we are a composite of a reality that is totally separated, that is exalted and transcendent and connected to the spiritual realm, and that we also are comprised of a physical body, which is, all essentially physical and blocking, and has all the qualities of the physical in its natural state. Then it's going to block the perception of the spiritual reality. Paragraph 2. So Rabbi Litzatu shares with us that what do we know about these spiritual realities? We don't have direct access to them. We can't envision them, because if we try to envision them, we'd be using our senses, and our senses are not useful to understand them. So what we share about them, we can share based upon that which has been passed down to us, communicated to us through the Torah, through the prophets. Okay, so there are certain fundamental rules that we can say about these physical realities. First of all, the nature of there's a relationship between the physical and the non-physical, and that is that for every physical reality there is a spiritual counterpart. We would refer to that as a koach, as a force, a spiritual force, that counterpart. And the nature of that counterpart is not simply that there's one down here and one up there, so to speak. Even up there is just a mashal, a metaphor. But the nature of the relationship is that the source of the reality of the physical thing is from its spiritual counterpart. So that's a crucial rule to remember. And they have that relationship, but as roots and branches. So, and their relationship is, they have a relationship that he describes as like a chain relationship. Now, the next idea that he says, so rule number one of the spiritual reality is that there are spiritual counterparts. Rule number 2 is that the nature of the relationship between these counterparts, spiritual and physical, is that one is the source of the other. And then the third rule is that for every thing that happens in the physical reality, so there are these malachim, these angels, that are designated to both to maintain the realities as well as to introduce that which is whatever new thing is supposed to happen into them. That's done through the vehicle of these malachim.